20th century for the week of April 13th through April 17th. So we are looking at, I wanted to include this image real quick before we get into the actual painting. This is Frida Kahlo right down here, and she's actually posing with her two Fridas. So I just wanted to show you just how big this is. This is her canvas is 5.5 by 5.5. And what's also really important is when she was photographed a lot, when she was in her prime of being an artist, when she was getting photographed, there were a lot of people that would pay attention to the way she actually looked in real life and how she portrayed herself in all of her self-portraits. And it's something to just show that she painted all her features accurately. So, and this is her. So for this one, let's go ahead and get this large enough so you can see it. This one is called The Two Fridas, and it's by, again, the artist Frida Kahlo, and this is in 1939, oil on canvas, and this is in the museum, Modern Art Museum in Mexico City. She's classified under surrealism, even though she's not necessarily considering herself a surrealist, more like those dreamlike qualities. But however, you could put her under surrealism. So there's a lot going on in this particular one. So I just want to kind of have you maybe right now we can just kind of annotate a few things. So this is a double self-portrait of her. This is an identical portrait of her on both sides. However, what's different about the two portraits is basically her attire. Okay, so she's got one where she's dressed in almost like a formal wedding dress, and then she's got one where she's more in her indigenous clothes. So, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. So, um, basically what you can just go ahead and label is she's wearing a white, pure white wedding dress on the image on the left, and the right, again, like I said, she's wearing more of her indigenous clothing, and what she has in her hand, I found a photo of it close up. It's actually a picture of when her ex-husband at this time, Diego Rivera, was a young child. So she's holding a picture of him in her hand. So this is the more successful modern independent Frida who Diego no longer loves. And this one is supposed to be, according to Frida, this is the young Frida who Diego married and loved. And so let's get into a little bit more. I know it gets a little grotesque as to what's being depicted. They are holding hands. So this is going to be known as her lonely painting, holding her own hand. And the last thing to kind of just comment on is yes, it is a little on the grotesque side, but these are her hearts. Okay, she's depicting her hearts, and there's some information about that we're going to be discussing a little bit about her background and what she went through. But what we just need to pay attention down here is these are called hemostat. They look like they're scissors, and basically what this is trying to do is stop the blood flow. And what is significant about blood? There's a couple things that we're going to discuss about the blood referring to pain. Okay, this is all about her pain that she's experiencing. Okay, this was made the same year that she got divorced from her husband, Diego Rivera, who's actually one of our other artists that we're going to be studying this week. He's a Mexican muralist. So we're going to see a little bit more of her story unfolding when we start to visit him later this week. So one of her quotes is, "I paint self-portraits because I am often so alone because I am the person I know best." And basically this is going to kind of, it's almost like a documentary in a way. And it's something important that you kind of need to understand as far as what she's gone through. And we'll talk a little bit about some of that context in just a little bit. But basically, these are just long periods of basically discussing about her recovery. She had polio when she was a child. When she was in her teens, her late teens, she got in a bus accident, and then she had over 30 operations in her lifetime trying to repair the damage that was done. So going back to the blood real quick, the blood again, it's going to refer to her pain. So her lifetime of physical pain, basically everything that I was discussing, she had gone through, and then the emotional pain that Rivera no longer wanted to love Frida. And again, we'll kind of get into some of that. So this is basically showing her suffering, but also her resilience. Okay, this is also supposed to show her strength. So symbols of emotions with her. Um, okay, just wanted to make sure. So the one on the right, again, this is the one where she's wearing more of her indigenous clothing. uh, the one that he loved, rebelled from the hair clothing of the time and explores the repression of women at that time. And again, the concept of them holding hands together, they clasp the hands to unite them, that they are bonded by a vein. One is strong, cutting ties, the other is weak, with an exposed heart and vein to portrait of Diego. And again, the blood, again, I know it's kind of gruesome, but it's referring to, if you can just put for symbolism, referring to pain, but also it can be a sign of union. And this is a physical metaphor that we're seeing being used right now. So again, this is a response to Diego Rivera to want a divorce. She felt betrayed about her loneliness and relationship. A little bit about the history. So in 1938, it's a crucial year for the artist. This is when basically she got her work discovered. She believed she wasn't painting her dreams, but rather her reality. So that's part of like the um, the surrealism, like how you could maybe try and classify her. It Surrealism is supposed to be almost like if you see some sort of like dreamlike quality. The clouds in the background definitely could make you kind of go along that path. Um, Basically, Frida painted this painting the year again that she got divorced. She calls Diego, she actually, before they were even married, before they even knew each other, she calls on Diego Rivera to see her work, and he likes it. And they begin to have an affair, and that's where it turns into a complicated relationship, and that's where their marriage begins. To wrap this up, so basically we're seeing the pain, the suffering. We see the two Fridas. We see the human anatomy graphically exposed, again, making sense, giving her history. Again, some of the things that happened that were significant in her life that I would include for your context is she had polio as a child. It deformed her right leg. She was in a bus accident at 18. It left her disabled and unable to bear children, and she always wanted to have children. And then throughout her whole rest of her life, she didn't live that long. Um, she went through 30 operations, and I guess this is trying to express her pain through the painting. And when we're talking about all this pain and everything, however, this should also represent some resilience, strength, um, in this painting. So it's not just a pure just um, depression of a painting, but just to show she's got some um, qualities of what she's gone through. Um, let's see. Again, the extracted hearts, we discussed a little bit about how they're exposed. Again, the concept of blood is something also that's important, and I know we've talked about that for a few different things. How it's a symbolism, how it's symbolized in many cultures, in Aztec and Christians in particular. Seeing the actual heart being extracted and the blood. Let's see. Yeah, they're showing her emotion, suffering to the viewer. Okay, guys. Um, I think this is a really nice one. There used to be an exhibit down at the Salvador Dali Museum a couple years ago. They had a whole exhibit of Frida Kahlo's. This one wasn't there, but got to see some other self-portraits of her paintings that she did in her lifetime. Um, yeah, that's about it. And again, just to show you her standing next to this painting. Again, pay attention to how large it is. All right. Okay, guys. This is Mrs. Howard. Over and out.